Gender mapping. It was a lesson that forced an aspiring teacher to quit and vow to never let his own children attend any school in one Minnesota school district. Next. Adam Becker is my guest, a father and former employee of Duluth Public Schools. Adam, I know this is a difficult situation, difficult subject. You were hired by Duluth Public Schools to become a district-wide paraprofessional job coach. That's the title. And I know you worked there for a couple of months when you had this professional development day, which is what we want to talk about. And that's when you learned some pretty troubling things about the district. Just tell us first off about the training on racial equity.
Yeah, thank you, Liz. I appreciate you having me on the show and the opportunity to share this. Just for a little context, I'm pretty new to Duluth. I'd just been here a couple of years, so I didn't know really what I was getting into. And at this professional development day, the first course that I had been signed up for by my supervisor was the one on racial equity. And right off the bat, they started talking about how racism was made up, something contrived by the elite class that was ruling over everybody, and they were more identifying with the Europeans because of their skin color. They said they look more like us, and so we're going to put them in the roles of supervisors and management and kind of policing the darker skinned people that would look less like them. And all of this stuff was pointing towards the big bad billionaire capitalists as the villain, and conveniently was leaving out a lot of details. So just a lot of history about Africans selling other Africans, and it all was pointing towards the answer to racism being socialism and bringing back this ideology, which I just kind of sat back and was thinking, am I in a liberal arts school in Colorado, or am I in a high school in northern Minnesota? Like, this is just not what I was expecting.
I think that's concerning enough, but it was this training about gender and pronoun inclusion that was even more alarming for you. Explain that. Gender mapping, and this is something being taught to younger students, even those in kindergarten. You learned that day, correct?
Yeah, Liz, and it is shocking. It was jaw-dropping, and when I tell the story, it almost has this element of like, is this even real? So it's hard to not chuckle once in a while. It's like, am I really even saying this? So what the gender mapping, they didn't call the training gender mapping. It was something about like the LGBTQ sensitivity. It was a pronoun training. And so I just figured it was going to be about learning how to say they, them, and don't call someone a boy, girl, all of that kind of stuff. But it really quickly went into a whole other agenda where the people teaching it, one was a paraprofessional like myself, and then the other was a bus driver attendant, I believe he was, they were. And they were both identified as trans. One was identifying as biological male, now a female. The other was biological male, now non-binary, if I remember right. And they explained all of this stuff, that you could be kind of male, female, somewhere in the middle. You could be ultra gender, or really kind of feel agender or non-gender or something to that effect. And that pronouns didn't even have to always do with gender. You could just say you don't want to be a they, them, but you'd rather be a ze, zay. And if you don't want to be a pronoun, but you just want to be known as who you are, yourself. I am Adam. I could ask people to say Adam wants to go with Adam's self because Adam is feeling like Adam's tired or something. And affirming all of these different pronouns. But then as they were explaining the myriad of genders and this kind of confusing soup of letters and stuff, they said that the way that you can teach this is with a gender map. And then they pulled out a coordinate plane, which is, you have a X and a Y axis, and then you can number 0 to 10 on one side, 0 to 10 on the other. And then you label one side male and one side female. And then this is the key part, Liz, is where you check in with yourself really deep, right? And you close your eyes and you breathe and you just shed your body, and you don't think about anything that you were born with, because that was assigned to you. But find your feelings. And then you mark down, how much did that feel male? Was I about a 5 male in there right now? And then, maybe I was feeling pretty dang female, so I'm going to put a 9. And then you find your coordinate on the map, and that's where you are in that moment. But that's for that moment, because gender in this radical ideology is fluid as a concept. And so you might start feeling different later and want to check in and get out your gender map and say, God, you know what? I got a little bit more male right now and a little less female. And then you can kind of make yourself a little grid, and you can track your gender on this little map. And then they said that you can start teaching this. And mind you, this is my first year teaching at a public school. I'm in Duluth, Minnesota, and I'm just like jaw dropped. And I hear this person say, you can start teaching this to your students as early as kindergarten.
It really is jaw-dropping. There's many ways to describe all of this, but it sounds like it was more than enough for you. As you said, Adam, you no longer work there. But with more than 8,500 students in Duluth Public Schools, do you think other parents should know what's going on with gender mapping and this gender ideology in the district?
Yeah, Liz, I really do. And that's why I'm talking about it right now. It's something that when I thought about how many parents in Duluth that have their kids in the public school would have the chance to even know this, it seemed like statistically it was unfair. So for me to have this information and not share it, I started telling some people, mainly around my church and friends and stuff, and then sharing it at my job. But it is, like I said, a kind of a vacuum here where we hear a lot of that other side of this argument. And so with a pretty liberal university here and politicians, it's just a lot to try to wrap your head around. And so when I keep seeing this gender ideology stuff coming up, and then in correlation with particularly socialism and communism and these types of ideas, and then going in this direction of violence and hatred and this really really dangerous rhetoric all over on that side of the aisle, it seemed like the only responsible thing to do was try to get the word out to more parents so they can decide for themselves.
Well, Adam Becker, as a father and also as a fellow Minnesotan, thank you for being here. Thank you for speaking up.
And thank you, Liz. I appreciate it. You have a great one.
Thank you. And that will do it for this episode of Liz Collin Reports. We will see you next time.